Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Ophelia Staten, and today in North Carolina we've got ourselves a snow day. And so I thought it would be a great day to just play in my studio with some gelatos. So I am grabbing some ephemera, and these come from the collage packs that I sell in my Etsy shop. And I've got some matte medium, and I'm just going to glue random bits of paper to this page using the matte medium. I find that I like to use paper and glue down paper to my journal pages before I start. To give the pages a bit more oomph where they can handle more of the media I use. And B, I think I like it more with the visual texture that it gives. I love that even though I will add more paint and other things to this page, I can still see peeking through words from dictionary pages or sheet music or bits of maps or whatever it is that I glue down. I love to start each of the pages with just prepping them with bits and pieces of collage ephemera. And these are available in my Etsy shop. I will try my best to remember to add links to all the materials that I've used. And so I'm just gluing things down with no rhyme, no reason, other than I know that today I want to play with these gelatos. This year, 2018, my plan is to use things or they have to be gone out of my studio. Once I've allowed that matte medium to dry, I'm just going to add a thin layer of gesso, and here I'm using the Jerry Studio gesso and a very thin layer to go over this page because I do want to be able to see some of the dictionary pages and bits of ephemera peeking through, but yet have the page primed. So I'm going to start with these gelatos, and since I've not really played with these before, I'm just going to pick a few similar colors that I plan to use to create this background. Starting here with this yellow, I'm just scribbling across the page. And since I'm not really sure of how these gelatos are going to mix and blend together, when I start to blend them, I'm going to be careful to rinse my brush carefully before moving on to the next color. However, I found that as I started blending these, they do blend beautifully. I love that the colors mix great. They're very soft and creamy, and they just add a nice pop of color to the background. However, since I wanted this to be more of a pastel look, and I think the feeling, I'm using the bright set, and I wanted the whole look of my page to be more of a pastel look or soft colors. So I started blending them out with white acrylic paint. And before I used the acrylic paint, I just sprayed them down with a little bit of water to help with the mixing. I found that they simply blended beautifully, and I'm very impressed. I'm really impressed with the way that these performed. And again, even though I used my brush and cleaned my brush in between blending all of the colors, when I went to just blend over the entire page, I love how the colors reacted together, and I loved how they just all look together. And with just a few scribbles of color, I now have a really neat background. I'm going to continue building my background with Lukas Cryl Studio acrylic paints in just a variety of colors. I've started with that Floresscent Magenta, and I'm going to continue using that titanium white throughout the page just to soften the colors up, to continue with the more pastel or softer look that I'm after with this page. I find that one thing that I love about working in my journal is that I feel more free to experiment, and that's one thing that I really want to do this year, is just spend more time experimenting with materials, pushing them, seeing what I can do with them, and just allowing myself to be more free to play. And I think that's why I just adore playing in an art journal, because I just feel as though I can be more free and I'm not so afraid to just create. So once that's dried, I grabbed a Crafter's Workshop stencil and a couple of colors of inks that I've put in a spray bottle, and I'm just going to spritz those over the stencil. And when I lifted it, I loved the look of it. However, I felt it was a bit too bold for what I was going for. So once that dried up, I'm just going to use some acrylic paints, and I'm going to use an old credit card or gift card that I'm just going to use to scrape paints into this background to just kind of soften things up a bit. Again, just adding layer upon layer, scraping away with the card to just push that bold pattern back into the background a bit more. A lot of times I find that as I'm playing and adding layers, sometimes I may go a bit too far, but I just keep playing until I can bring it back together for some sort of art and feeling creative for the day. A lot of times I find that for me, it's simply just enjoying the process of playing around with materials. I've grabbed a darker blue of that gelato, and I'm going to spray it with some water and blend it in again with some white acrylic paint. And I think later on I come back and add a bit more of a dark color, because although I wanted this to be more of a soft or pastel look, I'm finding that everything just kind of, it's getting a bit washed out. And so I think later I'm going to come back and add more of a darker acrylic paint. But for now, I'm just adding more layers and scraping them. And once that dried, I found in my stash a blue ink pad, and I'm going to use a Paper Bag Studio stamp that I've not played with these stamps or stamp pads in ages. And so I'm not sure of how this ink will react to adding more layers of acrylic paint on top. So I'm just, again, using things in my space, things that I bought long ago that I just knew I would love, and then somehow they became buried under all the new things that I'd gotten. So I'm taking my time here to dry that ink, just because I'm not sure of how well it's going to react with things that I plan to put on once I carry on with the page. I'm using that card to just add pops of magenta. And then here is where I'm adding that Prussian Blue paint to just give the page a bit more color. I think I went too far there with the blue directly in the middle, so I've added some white, and I'm going to blend that in. And just adding some more paint around the edges to just give it a little bit more something, darker color or value. I've pulled out some Art Pops ephemera from Robin Marie Smith, and I'm just going to play around with her ephemera, or those Art Pops, and then some Tisha Moore ephemera that I've had in my stash. And I'm going to use a glue stick to glue these down, because I'm not really sure yet of how much I trust this ink, because I've not played with it in such a long time with acrylic paint. So I'm using a glue stick to glue that down, and just I moved that circle Art Pop over to the right hand side as I was just auditioning, and in the end I will use matte medium to glue that down, although I will be careful to not touch it with the not touch the arrow with the matte medium. Her Art Pops, the stickers have an adhesive backing, so it held nicely for now. But just to make sure it stays put, I'm going to use matte medium to glue that down. I then will grab my Jerry's Jumbo Jet black pencil. And I found that when I initially went to grunge up the edge of this, the paint wasn't dry, so it started moving. So I just grabbed the softer lead of a Stabilo pencil to go around the edges of all the bits of ephemera that I've laid down. And going back and forth between the two, I think I like to just use these pencils to just kind of make everything look like it meshes into whatever it is I'm working on. But B, I just like to use it to roughen things up, or to just add some dimension, or make it look as though it's just supposed to be there, or it's a part of everything. And I'm not sure of how well the camera is actually picking up the fact that there is the black outline, because today in recording this, I'm using my daughter's phone. So, but I continue to just use pencils and colored pencils to make marks across the page. I've then grabbed my Daler-Rowney ink and my pen and nib, and I'm going to start to journal. And it always makes me so very nervous when I use ink, especially with just the dropper, and start writing, because things can honestly go so terribly wrong. But this is all a part of the experimentation today, and I always find that even if things go wrong, there's usually a way to bring it back, or I just flip the page and start something else. But usually I just keep going until I can get it back the way that I want. So I'm just doing a little bit more journaling here with the pen and the nib. And after I finish with the black ink here, I will take some white ink from a spray bottle and just use the nozzle to just add a few more marks with some white ink, just to add a bit more of doodling or scratch effects. Just honestly playing around today. I wanted to thank you guys so very much for watching and for playing around today, and I hope that you're enjoying your day. Until next time, bye.